introduce my driver, the grandmother of our 8-week-old grandbaby, the mother of our 5 children who range in age from 5 to 31, and my wife, Cramer, in the back of the room. Say hi to Chris. Chris and I were recently in Washington, and I was speaking to a group of members, about 50 members of Congress, and Kevin McCarthy, Congressman McCarthy, introduced me by reading my obituary, biography, and when he finished, and maybe some of you don't know this, but in the first 4 years of Ed Schaefer's term as governor, I was the state tourism director. And Congressman Ryan, who was sitting just across the table from Chris and I, and next to the speaker, raised his hand and before I could speak, and he said, I have a question. He said, when you were tourism director, what exactly was your pitch? And I said, Mr. Budget Chairman, when I was the tourism director in North Dakota, we were the least visited state in the country. But now that I'm an energy regulator, when I walk in the room, I feel like Walt Disney, because I carry with me the best brand in energy development in the country. And I said, Mr. Budget Chairman, as you put together the budget each year, the one that the House passes that the Democrat-controlled Senate never seems to get around to, I said, if you've ever gotten used to states coming with their handout, know that North Dakota does no longer come with its handout. We come with a contribution to what ails this country, not only in resources, but in solutions. And so I am proud to be the Republican nominee for the at-large seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. When I was the Economic Development Director in the second Schaefer term, to put it in some context, I said, the gross state product of North Dakota was $13 billion. Today, as the portfolio carrier for coal and oil and gas pipelines, refineries and gas plants, I have a $23 billion investment portfolio on my desk that I have direct oversight of. And by the way, it's nearly all good. How does this happen? Well, I'm not one of the politicians that will stand up here and take credit, except to the degree that as a regulator, not only do I know when to regulate, but just as importantly, I know when I don't need to regulate. Because you see, I trust the natural order of things. I trust the relationship between the corporate citizen and the local citizen. I always tell the pipeline companies, if you want to get along with me, get along with the landowner. When we have hearings, I would say probably, I've probably conducted 100 hearings or so in various places around the state for things like pipelines, transmission lines, like, coal mines, power plants, lots of wind farms. I would say 9 out of 10 times not a single member of the public shows up. And yet we hold the hearing and the community is affected. Why? To maximize the opportunity for people who have a concern to show up and express that concern. The greatest part of public life is the public, and if you don't think so, you should find another line of work. And why do so few people show up at a hearing of the Public Service Commission? Because the hard work was done before it got to my desk. Because the companies have already worked out the deal with the landowner. Because the local community and the corporate citizen have already worked out the tough issues. And who am I to come and tell a farmer, you ought to be concerned about your land when the farmer has already expressed those concerns and worked them out? See, I trust the natural order of things. In fact, I would submit to you that while we have a wonderful regulatory climate here in North Dakota, and I'm blessed to be able to work in it and to facilitate it, the reality is that I didn't create it. We are blessed in North Dakota by what you're all doing, not because I'm a great regulator, but because we have great citizens. And as long as you, as developers in this great industry, get along with those people who live here and have for their whole lives, I'll look like a really smart regulator. Because you know what? And I told Jim Cramer this when he was out here with Mad Money. And he said, are you sure you're a regulator as I was describing my philosophy? I said, Jim, let me ask you something. He calls me Cousin Kevin. He spells his name right too. I said, you look at this vast prairie out here. And I said, if I was to put you on the top of a power plant, and I said, Jim, you tell me what land out there is undisturbed and which land has been reclaimed by a coal mine. He said, I couldn't tell you, because I said, no one's ever been able to. Now I said, how many pipelines do you suppose run under this land? He said, I have no idea. I said, maybe dozens. I said, do you suppose that the company that put those pipelines under the ground, or the mining company mining that private land, has more to worry about, more to be concerned about from an EPA regulator, a Public Service Commission regulator, or the landowner that owns this land, whose very living is dependent on the sustainability of it? He said, are you really sure you're a regulator? He said, a regulator that understands the value of the natural order of things. And I trust it. And with that, you can have certainty. You all know that the greatest enemy of uncertainty, or the greatest enemy of investment, is uncertainty. And we live in an uncertain time in this country, don't we? But you know what's worse than the uncertainty that an investor has to prepare for? I mean, there are trillions, I believe, trillions of investment dollars sitting on the sidelines waiting for some certainty. And the reason they can't invest in uncertainty is because they have to assume the worst case scenario. The problem is that the scenario that the Democrats have aspired to, the scenario that Barack Obama aspires to for this country, that certainty is worse than the uncertainty. It is the worst case scenario. So I'm not sure that the certainty that the Democrats strive for is any better. Now I understand that my opponent was here yesterday. We were going to be here together today, but for some reason she had a scheduling conflict and couldn't make it to Medora this week until the debate was canceled. But I took the time to be with her last night in Wahpeton. Yes, 360 miles from here. And I heard that she outlined her pro-growth, pro-oil and gas record in the legislature, but she asked if I wouldn't straighten a couple things out. There were a couple things she forgot to mention. Such as, she was one of the 26 votes against Senate Bill 2397 in 2007, the one-year extension of the extraction tax rate reduction. The 1 year of reducing it from 11.5% to 7%. One of 26 votes against it. And yet she's good at reaching across the aisle and building a coalition of consensus. I enjoyed John Harju. I always enjoy all that egghead stuff that John can show us about CO2. And it reminded me that it was in 1997 that Basin Electric, creating that synthetic natural gas out of those beautiful coal reserves under the prairies of North Dakota, came to the legislature and asked for a 10-year property tax exemption for pipelines that would carry that CO2, that they capture half of the CO2 stream at the Dakota gas plant. They could capture and they could pipe it to Weyburn and use it for enhanced oil recovery. And the testimony says that they could someday use it in North Dakota for enhanced oil recovery. What a great idea. It's pro-coal. It's pro-gas. It's pro-oil. It's pro-economy. It's pro-North Dakota. It's pro-jobs. It's pro-rural electric cooperatives. Certainly, no one could oppose that. And no one did. It passed 46-0 in the Senate. And in the House Finance and Tax Committee, it passed 12-1. Yes, my opponent was the one. And on the House floor, it passed 92-1. Now, as sort of stunning as it is to know that somebody who aspires to be your congressman, your congresswoman, was the singular vote against that important legislation, and that's her attitude. The good news is she didn't have enough influence to convince a single other person to go along with her. But that's not a great characteristic for someone who wants to represent in Congress. The other thing that I wanted to just highlight in case she forgot was this from her website, www.pamgolson.com/issues/gas prices. Quote, oil companies should pay their fair share to build our infrastructure, not North Dakota taxpayers. As though you're not North Dakota taxpayers. She says, we give more than enough already. For too long, oil companies have enjoyed generous tax benefits at our expense. How do you reconcile that with headlines today, $1.6 billion budget surplus at our expense? Folks, my biggest challenge in this race are the people that think I don't have a challenge. I believe Napoleon was right when he said the logical conclusion of defense is defeat, and if you can't tell, I don't do defense well. I get ahead and I like to stay ahead the same way. This is important stuff what you're doing. I like what you're doing. I think most North Dakotans like what you're doing. As long as we do it responsibly. I believe in the state. I believe in free enterprise. I believe in limited government. And I've exercised it, yes, even as a regulator these last 9 years. And I believe this. First of all, I need your support. I need it badly. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm proud to stand with you in the arena. It's important not only to vote right. I want to be your spokesperson. We only get one out of 435 out of this state. I want to be that one in the U.S. House of Representatives. I don't apologize for what you do or what I do or what I believe. You can disagree with it, but you'll never wonder where I stand. I'm asking for your support in every way possible between now and November 6th. Because Nancy Pelosi, who would appoint Henry Waxman chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee if you didn't need any other reasons to support me, that would be one. Because she's put $519,000 down for a TV buy to run against me here in North Dakota. I'm raising mine $5 at a time. So I need you. I don't take anything for granted. I love this state. I think Ron is the perfect place to have this every year. It's the perfect place. The juxtaposition of tourism and the beauty and the splendor of this area and the richness of what you do is perfect. A perfect illustration of all the values of North Dakotans. And I always say, the same God who created the majesty of the Rockies, the splendor of the Badlands, the awesomeness of the prairie, the richness of the topsoil, the sustainability of the oceans, but the minerals underneath it. And then he put his most precious creation, people, in charge of it. And as long as we treat those resources properly, we develop them responsibly, and we use them for our pleasure and our sustainability and his glory, we'll be just fine. Thank you for all you do. God bless you, and God bless this great state of ours.